Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to make you uncomfortable. I'm just going to say that up front. We are looking at a topic that feels incredibly urgent, especially if you live in Florida. But honestly, the mechanics of what we're discussing,
Well, they apply everywhere.
they apply to every school, every mall, every government building in the country. We're talking about safety.
Right.
And I don't mean the warm, fuzzy feeling of safety. I mean the cold, hard, mechanical reality of it.
It's a topic we all think we understand, but when you actually peel back the layers, which is what we do here,
Yeah.
you realize there is a massive canyon between the appearance of security and the reality of readiness.
Right. Because usually when I think about making a place safe, like my kid's school, for example, I immediately think about hardware.
Sure.
I think about hardened doors, security cameras, those buzz-in entry systems, metal detectors. It's all stuff you can buy, install, and, point at.
And that focus on stuff
Mm-hmm.
is exactly the trap that our source material for today highlights.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
We are looking at a really compelling and frankly alarming article. It's titled Florida Firearms Training Oversight, Public Safety Gap.
Ah.
It was published by Veltec and written by a guy named Herfel.
And Herfel isn't just, he's not some pundit writing from a desk, right?
Far from it.
Hmm.
He has 30 years of experience in law enforcement and competitive shooting. He's been an instructor. He's been on the ground.
So he knows what he's talking about.
So when he talks about what happens when bullets start flying, he isn't theorizing. He knows.
And his central premise is a hard pill to swallow. He basically says that while we are obsessing over the doors and the
right.
cameras,
Yeah.
the hardware, we are ignoring the single most dangerous variable in the entire equation,
Human element.
the human element. Specifically, a gun in the hands of someone who is qualified on paper, but not actually ready in reality.
That distinction, qualified versus ready, that is the entire mission of this deep dive.
Right.
On the surface, those two words, they sound like synonyms. If you're qualified, you're ready.
Oh. Yeah, that's how it works with driving a car, usually.
But Herfel argues that in the current regulatory environment, specifically regarding Florida's armed security, there is a dangerous gap between those two concepts.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then. The article starts with a pretty bold statement. Florida's public safety blind spot. We're arming people we haven't truly trained.
It's a strong start.
That feels like hyperbole. We have laws, we have licenses. Are we really saying these people aren't trained?
We are saying they are trained to pass a test, not to survive a fight.
Okay.
Herfel actually lays this out as a mathematical equation. He says that we are currently operating on a formula that, it guarantees disaster.
I'm usually terrible at math, but I feel like I need to know this one. What's the equation?
The equation is unverified competency
Mm-hmm.
plus real-world stress
Okay.
plus crowded environments equals preventable tragedy.
Okay, let's break that down because unverified competency sounds like an oxymoron.
It does.
If a security guard is standing in a school hallway with a badge and a gun, didn't the state verify their competency? Isn't that what a license is for?
You would think so. But this is where the checkbox culture comes in.
Checkbox culture.
The source argues that qualified simply means you met the minimum standard. You showed up to a range, you stood in the lane, you fired a specific number of rounds at a piece of paper that wasn't moving.
Right.
You got the score. You went home.
Okay, but that's how I learned to shoot. That's how most people learn. Why is that unverified?
Because the test doesn't resemble the job. Think about it this way.
Okay.
Imagine you want to be a Formula One driver. You go to the DMV, you parallel park a Honda Civic in an empty parking lot at 5 miles per hour.
Right.
And the instructor hands you a license and says, congrats, you're qualified for the Grand Prix.
That's terrifying.
That is essentially what we are doing with armed security. We are testing them in a Honda Civic in a parking lot, static, calm, no pressure, and then putting them in a Formula One race
A school shooting or a violent intrusion.
and expecting them to perform.
So when Herfel talks about real-world stress in that equation, he's talking about the difference between the parking lot and the racetrack.
He's talking about biology. And this is the part people forget.
Mm-hmm.
When you are shooting at a paper target on a sunny Saturday afternoon, your heart rate is, 70?
Mhm.
You have full dexterity in your fingers. You can see clearly.
Sure.
But when a threat appears, when someone is screaming or shooting at you, your body dumps adrenaline.
Fight or flight.
It's more than just a feeling. Your heart rate spikes to 160 or 180 beats per minute. You get tunnel vision.
You literally lose your peripheral sight.
Yeah. You experience auditory exclusion, meaning you might not even hear your own gun go off. And crucially, you lose fine motor skills.
Fine motor skills.
The blood leads your extremities to go to your core organs.
So your hands stop working.
Your hands become clumsy clubs. Now, try to manipulate a safety, clear a malfunction, or pull a trigger smoothly with a clumsy club while you can't hear and you can only see a narrow tunnel in front of you. If you have never trained under those conditions, what professionals call stress inoculation, you will fail.
And the article claims the current training standards don't include this stress.
Correct. The current qualified standard typically involves a minimal repetition, no movement, and no judgment work.
Wait, hold on. No movement. You're telling me that the person guarding a high school might have never practiced shooting while walking or running.
In many cases, yes. They stand still. The target stands still.
But that's not reality.
In a real viral nightmare scenario, nobody is standing still. You are moving to cover, the bad guy is moving, kids are running.
Right.
If you've only ever fired from a static, comfortable stance, your brain has no neural pathway for shooting on the move. You are essentially improvising with a deadly weapon.
That's a great phrase, improvising with a deadly weapon. The article calls a firearm a high liability tool, right?
Exactly. It's not a magic wand. Just possessing it doesn't make you safe. If anything, possessing it without that deep level of training makes the environment less safe. Because if you panic and start firing without accuracy, you become a liability.
To the very people you are supposed to protect.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the context here. We aren't just talking about guarding a warehouse at night. We're talking about Florida schools.
That's the most disturbing part. We have poured millions into school safety. But Harail argues we are placing armed personnel in those hallways who are undertrained, underqualified, and undertested.
I saw the term Class G license mentioned a few times in the notes. Can we clarify that? If I walk into a bank or a school in Florida and see a guard, is that what they have?
Yes. The Class G license is Florida's statewide standard for armed security officers. To get it, there are requirements, classroom hours, range time, annual requalification.
Okay, so there are some rules.
There are. But Hervel's point is that outside of these defined licensing lanes, the instruction is incredibly inconsistent.
Inconsistent how? Is it just that some instructors are easier than others?
It's that the industry is just loosely monitored. It's a marketplace. You can have an instructor who is basically running a certificate mill.
A certificate mill.
You pay the fee, you do the bare minimum, you get the paper. The guard feels trained because they have the license. The school administrator feels safe because they hired a licensed guard.
But no one's actually ready.
But nobody checked if the training actually prepared that human being for the worst day of their life.
It's a shared delusion of safety.
A false sense of security, as the article calls it. And to break that delusion, Hervel asks us to do something really difficult.
Yeah.
He asks us to visualize the failure.
Yeah, I read this section. It's the scenario nobody wants, but everyone needs to visualize. I think we should walk through it because it really drives the point home.
Let's do it.
Okay, so picture the scene. It's a school hallway, lunchtime, it's crowded. Suddenly there's a scream.
Wow.
Not a playful scream, but a terrified one. Then, chaos.
Right. Now, insert our qualified but not ready security guard. This is the good guy. He wants to help. But he's never trained under stress. His heart rate hits 180 instantly.
His hands go numb.
His hands go numb. He tries to draw his weapon.
But because he's rushing.
He fumbles. Or he rushes the draw and his finger finds the trigger too early. But let's say he gets the gun up. He sees the threat. But he has tunnel vision.
So he doesn't see anything else.
He doesn't see the students running behind the threat. He just sees the bad guy.
And he pulls the trigger.
And he misses. Because he never trained to shoot while his heart was pounding out of his chest.
And in a crowded hallway, a miss doesn't just...
It doesn't just disappear, no.
It has to go somewhere.
No. Physics doesn't care about your intentions. The bullet hits a bystander, a student, a teacher.
That is heavy.
It's the nightmare scenario. And the article walks through the aftermath. The lawsuits, the destroyed careers, the shattered public trust, but mostly the grief.
Over a death that was preventable.
That's the key.
That's the word that sticks with me. Preventable. Because if the training had been realistic, if they had failed in training so they could learn, they might not have failed in reality.
That is the core argument. We can buy all the bulletproof glass in the world, but if the software, the human training is glitchy, the system fails.
So we've established that the current situation is a ticking time bomb.
It seems so, yeah.
But This isn't just a doom-scrolling session. Velartech actually proposed a solution. And what surprised me is that they aren't asking for Navy SEAL training for every mall cop.
No, they aren't. Herfel emphasizes that fixing this doesn't require reinventing the wheel. It just requires leadership. They call their proposal the bare minimum.
I want to push back on these fixes a bit, though, because sometimes these proposals just sound like more bureaucracy.
Fair enough.
Velartech submitted 5 measurable fixes. Let's look at them critically. The first one is modernize proficiency standards. What does that actually mean? Is it just making the target smaller?
It's about demanding proof of competence. Right now, in many places, training is attendance-based. You sit in the chair, you pass.
Right, a participation trophy.
Exactly. Modernizing means moving to performance-based standards. You have to demonstrate you can hit the target accurately, consistently, under time constraints. If you can't, you don't get the license.
Okay, I can get behind that. But the second one seems oddly specific. Standardized target spacing. Why does the government need to regulate how far apart the targets are? That sounds like micromanagement.
It sounds like it, but it goes back to biology. If you always train shooting at one target directly in front of you, you develop training scars.
Meaning you don't look around.
You never learn to scan. By standardizing spacing, forcing targets to be wide apart, you force the shooter to physically turn their head and eyes to engage multiple threats. It breaks that tunnel vision we talked about.
So it forces you to look before you shoot. Okay, that makes sense. Number 3 is raise instructor qualifications.
This is massive.
Yeah.
Right now, the barrier to entry to become an instructor can be shockingly low. Herfel argues that the student is only as good as the teacher. If the instructor doesn't understand current tactics or legal use of force or how to coach a struggling shooter, they're just passing on bad habits.
So, better teachers, better students.
We need to demand more from the people signing off on these licenses.
Okay. Number 4, fix communication risk. This one requires standardized instructional language. Again, playing devil's advocate here, does it really matter if I say stop and you say halt?
In a calm room, no. In a high-stress crisis involving multiple responders, absolutely.
Ah, okay.
Imagine a school shooting where you have school security, local police, maybe a sheriff's deputy, all converging. If the school security guard was trained with different commands than the police, you get confusion.
Drop it, ground it, show me hands.
Exactly. In split-second encounters, confusion gets people killed. Standardizing the language puts everyone on the same operating frequency.
It's like air traffic control. Everyone needs to speak English so planes don't crash.
Ideally, yes. It reduces the cognitive load during chaos.
And the last one is maintain the manual, which just sounds like update your paperwork.
It's more than paperwork. Tactics evolve. We learn things from every active shooter incident.
Right.
We learn what worked and what didn't. If the state's training manual hasn't been updated in 10 years, you are literally training people for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
You are training them to fight the last war.
Exactly.
So these 5 points: proficiency, spacing, instructor's language, and manuals, Velartech calls this the bare minimum.
Yes, they argue this is pre-incident prevention. It's about stopping the viral nightmare before it happens.
So Velartech, a private company, writes this up, packages it as a formal reform proposal, and sends it to the state of Florida. What happened?
Nothing.
Nothing. Like, they got a thank you for your submission letter.
According to the source, at the time of publication, they received no official response. And Herfel writes something really cutting about this.
What's that?
He says, government silence is not neutral. It's a decision.
That hits hard. It's a decision.
It is. By doing nothing, the state is deciding that the current level of risk is acceptable.
And while they stay silent,
Licenses are processed. Instructors who might be incompetent are still marketing themselves. Schools are signing contracts thinking they are buying safety.
but they're just buying insurance.
That's the argument, yeah.
Silence preserves the risk.
Precisely. And this is where the article pivots. It basically says, okay, the government isn't listening, so we need to talk to the people.
Right. It becomes a call to action.
It shifts from a policy paper to a call to action for citizens' parents in Orlando, business owners in Tampa.
But this is the part where I always get stuck. I'm a parent. I go to the PTA meeting. I want to say something, but what do I actually ask? I can't just stand up and say, are we safe? They'll just say yes.
You're right. Are we safe is a bad question because it's too vague. The source gives you specific demands to make.
Okay, equip me.
Yeah.
What is the first thing I should ask the school board or the security company?
First, demand measurable standards, not hours. If they tell you, our guards have 40 hours of training, you say, I don't care how long they sat there. What are their qualification scores? What is the passing standard?
So show me the output, not the input.
Exactly. Do they have to hit the target 80% of the time or 100%? Make them show you.
Okay. Show me the scores, not the timesheet. What else?
Second, verify readiness. This is the big one. Ask, who trained these officers? How often do they train? And do they train under stress?
That under stress part seems to be the key.
It is. Ask them. Have these guards ever fired their weapon while moving? Have they ever done force-on-force decision-making scenarios?
Right.
If the answer is blank stares or no, then you know you have a checkbox security team, not a ready security team.
It really forces you to stop being a passive consumer of safety. You have to audit it yourself.
You do, because, as Herfel points out, relying on the state's minimum requirements is a gamble. He writes, the state's minimums should not be the ceiling.
That's a powerful concept. The minimum is just the floor.
It's the don't get arrested line. It shouldn't be the goal.
And if we settle for doing the absolute bare minimum required by law,
we aren't creating safety. We are creating compliance. And those are very different things.
Compliance is what you do to avoid a fine.
Safety is what you do to save a life.
It's interesting, isn't it? Valortech is in the industry. Usually companies want less regulation. They want it to be easier to make money.
That's right.
But here you have an industry insider practically begging for harder tests.
That should tell you everything you need to know. The professionals, the ones who truly understand the mechanics of violence, are terrified of the amateurs.
Because they know what can go wrong.
They know what a stray bullet does. They know how fast things go wrong. When an expert asks for stricter testing for their own field, you should listen.
They're trying to prevent a tragedy.
They aren't trying to sell you something. They're trying to prevent a tragedy they can see coming.
So to wrap this up, we've gone from a simple equation to a pretty scary reality check. We know that qualified does not mean ready. We know that the current training often ignores the biological reality of stress. And we know that the government is, so far, leaving this on read.
Which leaves the ball in our court, the listener's court.
It definitely changes how I'm going to look at the next security guard I walk past. I'm not just going to see the uniform. I'm going to wonder.
Yeah.
Did you practice for the worst day of your life? Or did you just pass a test in a parking lot?
And if we start asking that question out loud, maybe the standards will finally change.
Well, that is a lot to digest, and I know it wasn't the most comfortable deep dive we've ever done, but safety isn't supposed to be comfortable.
No, it's not.
I want to leave you with one final thought from the source material. It's Herfel's underlying challenge to all of us.
What is it?
In a world obsessed with meeting minimum requirements and checking boxes, we have to ask ourselves, when it comes to life and death safety, if we settle for minimums, are we actually safe or are we just insured?
That is the ultimate question.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you on the next one.